Cool, he wanted that. This is turning into a dream session. I cannot believe how many fish are in this peg today. It's ridiculous. I'm on my favourite river, the River Trent. We're catching some beautiful fish. We've had chub, we've had roach, over a pound, pound 12, all on pellet tactics. And this feels like a barbel. I've already had 8 or 9 barbel, some beautiful fish. And for me, this is the stuff dreams are made of. Every single bite toes the tip over. And if you're not looking, the only time you'll know you've got a fish on is when the rod butt hits you in the chin as it lifts up. We've not had any massive barbel, but I always think these sort of like 4 to 6 pound fish that we're catching today, they're the real scrappers. They're the ones that put up the fight and give you a right run around. I mean, it is brilliant fishing. It's been a beautiful day. We've just come out of a couple of weeks of really hot weather, and I'd have loved to have come and fished this peg, but I just know that when you're fishing for barbel in really hot weather, you can have problems with the fish struggling a little bit with low oxygen levels. So I've waited for a settled, cooler period so we can come back and have a go for these fish. We're shooting a feature today as well for Angling Times. We've got a photographer behind us getting some photos, and we've had a superb net full of fish. We've got to keep netting, and we've been putting a few of the smaller chub and the roach in the keep net. And obviously we've put every other barbel back. There's no need to keep barbel. I think it's nice to get them back as quick as you can, because again, you've got to look after them. They give their all in the fight, and if you're not careful, you can have problems with them going belly up. But God, got relatively strong gear on for a matchman anyway. It's pretty strong gear. Here he comes. Beautiful. Another stunning fish. So you can see there, block end feeder tactics. And this has been the stamp we've been catching today. Sort of like 4, 5, maybe 6 pounds. Don't think this guy's going to go 6 pound, but he's definitely over 4. You can see when I was playing it there, cracking fun on feeder gear, and obviously in a match, brilliant weight building. So there we go, beautiful fish. Cracking. What I'm going to do is I'll give him a bit of time in the edge, get him recovered so he can go back, and then I'll talk you through my setup and all the tactics that we're using today. Right, we've just put that fella back. He went back nicely. You've got to, especially during the summer, you've got to rest your barbel in the edge. We're not blessed with really well oxygenated water here in this slack that we're sitting in. So we've really got to take a time, make sure the fish goes back safe there. Kick strongly, goes back nicely. You've not got any guilty conscience then. Right, what I want to do is talk about the gear I'm using, because a lot of people, they see a big river like the Trent and it daunts them a little bit. They think they need really robust, really beefed up gear. I'm going to tell you, you don't need that. I'm going to start with the rod. I'm using a highest power feeder. This is 12 foot. This is like a slightly stepped up version of a 12 foot standard feeder rod. You know, don't get me wrong, this is a beautiful rod, really expensive, top quality rod. But you could visit the River Trent with a standard 12 or 13 foot feeder rod that you'd use for breaming, anything like that. You don't need really beefed up pokey gear. We're not casting 3 or 4 ounces out there into the river. We're casting quite light feeders. We're going to be busy. There's no need for that broom handle of a rod. So a nice, soft 12 foot feeder rod, 13 foot feeder rod is all you need. The benefit of using this particular rod is that these rods, I'm going to bring this back, these rods actually come with hollow tips. So the reason I like a hollow tip is because we're fishing for drop back bites, and a hollow tip reacts really fast. So when you get that drop back bite, it's going to spring back, you're going to see the bite a lot quicker, it's going to help hook the fish as well. And you'll see that when we cast out in a minute, we're feeding that bow out, we're fishing for drop backs. Not necessarily, occasionally some of these barbel do want to tow me in, but it's not necessarily about the rod pulling round, it's about that drop back bite, especially for smaller fish like those roach and those chub. So a hollow quiver tip, for me, it's just a little extra bonus about using this rod. Now reel line, I've got £8 on the reel. We're fishing a quality fish today, we don't want anything that's going to let us down. I also want the rig to be reasonably stiff at the end, so £8 reel line, just make sure your gear is up to the job. Sometimes, if I wasn't fishing for barbel or chub, if I was fishing for roach and bream and skimmers on the slightly slower moving parts of the river, I'd probably go to braid. I think braid's brilliant for, again, hitting bites, getting a really direct contact to the fish, casting really nicely. The downside is if I hook one of these barbel or one of these chub, it's going to cause me problems when I'm playing it. So mono it is today. This is £8 M-Tech. As I say, a really robust line. Now what I'm going to do is show you the rig I'm using. I've got the GoPro set up behind us because I want to show you the close-up of the setup because I think this is really important. I've got a running feeder, and the feeder just runs on the main line on a snap link. So I've got a snap link on the main line, and then I've ran that down to my standard twizzled boom with 2 slot shots stopping it. Now I've tied, this twisted boom is about 4 inches long, and I've tied 2 knots at the top of it. The first knot houses those 2 slot shot, so hopefully you can see there's a knot, and those slot shot butt up against that first knot. That's what my feeder sits on for casting. And then above that, I've tied another little tiny knot. And what that does is when the feeder's in the water, it creates a bolt effect. Like I say, we're trying to hit drop back bites today, especially important for those smaller fish. And that swivel will hit that top knot. It will lock slightly. The tip will drop back, we've hooked the fish. And then obviously when we're playing the fish, we can play the fish on a free running feeder, or if for any reason we do have a mainline breakage, it means that the fish can swim away without being tethered to the feeder. And I think it's a fantastic rig. So that rig, hopefully you can see it, is my go-to river feeder rig. Now we've got a hook length on that's loop to looped, and we've started off today with a hook length of 4 foot. But we soon shortened that. We realised there was loads of fish in the swim. They were coming to the feeder. We were catching a lot of quality roach, and we wanted to shorten that down. Also, the barbel didn't really mind that short hook length either. So we'll shorten that down. It's just under 3 foot now. And that means that it's far enough away from the feeder that barbel are going to pick up the hook bait. Barbel are notorious for just shying away from the main line and from the feeder, so a longer hook length works well for barbel, but we're also catching some chub and roach. The hook length's 0.18. I appreciate that 0.18, £6 line, it's not what a specimen barbel angler would use. They'd use something a little bit thicker, but I'm a matchman. I'm fishing at the worst part of the day, middle of the daytime, quite a bright day. We want to be fooling these fish. So 0.18 is a really nice, happy medium between making sure I get the fish out. I've not been broke at all today on the hook length, but also tricking those wary fish. Hook wise, we've got a size 12. It's a barbed hook. It's eyed because I've tied a little knotless knot and it houses a bait band on the hair. And in that bait band, I've been slipping a 6mm marine halibut pellet. I've tried an 8mm. Believe it or not, even though this peg is rammed full of fish, I've not had a bite on an 8mm pellet. It's been these 6mm pellets that's been doing the damage. So it just goes to show that just with a little bit of finesse, you can have a fantastic day. It's almost scaled down specimen style fishing, this is. We've taken the best parts from the specimen world and the match world, and as you can see, it's reaping rewards. What I want to do now is just show you where I'm casting, go through the process of casting out, putting the rod in the rod rest, actually fishing the swim, and hopefully we'll catch another fish for you. Right then folks, what I'm going to do is talk you through the process of actually catching a fish. Hopefully we'll catch you a fish on the video. So what I'm going to do first, in that little bait band, I'm going to slip in 6mm marine halibut pellet. Now these are a beautiful pellet, these 6mm. They're quite elongated, so they sit in a band really nice without slipping out. Sometimes you get a pellet that's a little bit too short. You have to be careful when you're putting it into a band, but these are a really nice pellet, really elongated. The only baits I've got for feed today are some hemp seed and also some micro pellets, some 3mm marine halibut pellets. The fish in this river love pellets, they love hemp. I don't want to be putting big pellets in the feeder because obviously they're not going to come out. So these 3mm fit the bill perfectly. Now, feeder wise, I've got one of these midi speed feeders. It's a maggot feeder. I've slightly opened out the holes. And the reason I like these feeders is because I can actually take the cap off independently from the feeder and fill the feeder. So in there, we're going to put half fill it with pellets, fill the rest up with the hemp. Like I say, I've slightly opened those holes up so the bait will come out, the flow will push that bait out, no problem. And remember what I said about not necessarily using heavy rods because we're not casting heavy feeders. This feeder's 35 grams in weight. So we're not talking about chucking 4 or 5 ounces into the river like a lot of people seem to think. And you'll see I'm not using a line clip today because we're catching decent quality fish. As soon as that feeder goes in, I'm letting it hit the bottom on a tight line, and then I'm just back winding a little bit of line off just to form a little bit of a bow. Now again, if I was fishing with braid and I was fishing for smaller fish, roach, skimmers, bream, I'd probably fish to a line clip and try and build a peg. There we go, we've got a little rattle there on the tip straight away. I think that was a little roach rattling the bait. We've had loads of roach today, so it wouldn't surprise me if we catch a couple of quality roach before we manage to hook a decent fish. So again, we're going to repeat the process. And once again, this is the reason we're not using a really heavy feeder, because we don't want to be boshing in a house brick every minute or so. This is fast fishing. Fish are on the bait really quick. So again, not to a line clip, trap the feed, trap the line under my finger, let the feeder hit the bottom on a tight line. That should keep the hook length nice and straight, and it's not going to fall to the bottom in a heap. Back wind off a little tiny bit of line just to form a bow. And now we're fishing. You can see obviously I've got the rod really high up on a rod rest. That just keeps as much line off the surface as possible. And it's about getting the balancing act right, because you want quite a big bend in your tip, because again, that's what's going to help hook the fish. That spring back of the quiver tip is what's going to hook the fish for you. The fish is going to move the line, the feeder is going to hit that little tiny knot just above the snap link, and that's when we're going to get that little bit of a bolt effect, and hopefully we've got a fish on. Now I've had a little spell obviously talking to you guys and returning that barbel, so I imagine it's going to take a little bit of a while maybe to attract a quality fish back in the swim. But we've had loads of bites during the day. There we go, that was a little drop back then. And like I said, I've not been leaving the feeder in the swim for more than like 2 minutes maximum. If we get to 2 minutes, I'm reeling in and re-chucking, because we need to keep that constant trickle of bait going in the swim. There's so many fish in this river, it's unbelievable. You cannot physically feed enough bait to put these fish off. All I'm trying to do is get across to you guys that this big river that you see and you read about shouldn't be so daunting. It should just be an enjoyable place to come and fish, and an easy place to come and fish and catch some quality fish. And obviously people have talked about the heyday of the River Trent and how it was absolutely rammed with fish in the sort of the 70s and 80s, but obviously I wasn't around in those days, but I can't imagine it being much better than this. Here we go. Little tiny drop back, and then obviously before I've picked it up, the fish is halfway across the river. And this, I'm guessing, is another barbel. The barbel always seem to have that initial tear off, whereas the chub are a bit more of a dogged fight. Now, as well as being a really fast-paced swim, that usually means there's not many snags. But even so, on a natural venue, I always like to keep the rod up high, because I think there's bound to be something on the bottom. You know, the odd stick that's travelled down with any floods. It's been amazing today that we've started early in the morning. We've probably got here at 8 o'clock maybe. Just after dinner time now, and we've had a depth fluctuation of probably about 6 or 7 inch of water. This water was just underneath my side tray at one point. We had a little tiny bit of rain yesterday, and I think that's made its way into the river, and the river's risen all morning. It's just starting to go down now, so while the river was rising, we had a really good run on the roach and the chub, and then as it's steadied out, it seems to be Barbel City again now. And like I say, I'm just hoping that you can see how easy it is to get yourself on the river, catch some fish. I've used probably 2 tins of hemp, a bag of 3 mils. We've got some 6 mils just literally for hook baits. Like I say, we've scaled everything down. We've not even had a bite on the 8 mils, which is unreal when you think how many fish are out there. So 100 6mm pellets is all you need for hook bait. Look at that. You can catch beautiful fish like this guy. Absolutely stunning. I always think with my barbel fishing that it's hard to feed enough bait, but that might be right when you fish float fishing for them. You can leather baiting all day. But you know, because a feeder, it concentrates the bait in exactly the right place on the bottom where the barbel are. You can get away with, you know, smaller feeders, cast more regular. And that's 2 of these beauties now that I've caught for you. We've got a load of chub and roach in the net. Like I say, hopefully that proves how easy feeder fishing on the river is. He's a little bit lively, this guy. Got him in a little bit quick probably. Thanks for watching. Until next time, tight lines.